Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Every Other Day vlog with Bilibre with Andy. It's cold today, as you can see. It's been cold every other day that I've been doing this. We're at around 2 degrees. Not too bad. Not too warm, not too cold, just really cold. So, what's today's topic for the vlog? Today's topic is concerning Bitcoin's future and Bitcoin's current, I think that the current temperature of Bitcoin today. I think it's really interesting to hear a lot of people say that Bitcoin is in a bubble, Bitcoin is overvalued, Bitcoin's value proposition is nowhere to be found, despite its current use case. And I find it funny. People are freaking out because Bitcoin's the transaction time to send Bitcoin from one account to another is rising. It's rising at a pretty alarming rate. I think to send a couple $1,000s, you got to pay a couple $100s in fees, and obviously that's a problem because Bitcoin was touting itself to be the money that you can send for nearly nothing. You were sending it for free. And of course, this is because the network was not being spammed. This is because the meme pool was very small. Miners were quickly churning out transactions, and that's why the transaction fees were so low. And now that's changed, and that's okay. And that's okay because I'm going to make a little analogy here to when the internet first started to be used. I remember when I was in middle school and I was using the internet. It was the most fascinating thing in the world. I was connecting to this network of websites where I could learn things. My teachers would say, "Oh, go to the library," and I was like, "Nah, I have the internet." And what's funny is how long it took me to access the internet. But even still, even though I knew it was going to take me like 10 minutes to get a connection between my computer and the internet, if any of you connected to the internet back then knew that it had to be done through through the telephone lines. And you hear, and that was merely the computer making a connection to the internet through a phone line, which is extremely inefficient, takes forever, yet that's how so many people were connecting to the internet. And it's so funny to consider how many people would go through the trouble, would take, I guess, in a day. Think of how many man hours were destroyed waiting for computers to connect to the internet. All the time that was spent connecting that could have been spent surfing the internet the way we do today. Yet people were still using it, and people were still touting its potential future, which was going to be amazing. And it is. Everything is connected to the internet today. And so the same way that the internet seemed very slow and just cumbersome and wasteful, time is money, people. So all that time that was wasted connected to the internet, that was definitely felt. The same way that today Bitcoin's transaction fees are felt. You're spending real money to get money over from one account to another. But I believe these are growing pains, the same way the internet had its growing pains in the early 90s. That same growing pain is being felt in Bitcoin today. And I think that Bitcoin is going to scale, and it is scaling. SegWit is a huge boon to scale. And because SegWit allows for the Lightning Network and a couple of other things like Rootstock to take effect. So scaling is coming, guys, and the transaction fees are soon going to be a thing of the past, the same way that we had the internet, the same way that computers took forever to connect via phone lines. That's a thing of the past. I don't know. I don't think anybody under the age of 20 could ever tell you that they remember a day when it took them longer than a second to sit down on their computer and log into Facebook or whatever they want to use. Bitcoin scaling is coming. And another thing regarding the current sentiment is that Bitcoin is heavily overvalued. And because you hear your Uber driver or your Lyft driver telling you about Bitcoin, that it's a good idea to run away. The same way during the stock market days, it was a good idea to sell, to liquidate your assets. When the shoe shiner told you, hey, have you heard of this one stock and whatever? That's when these New York money men were like, "Oh, it's a good time to get out now." And it's funny that that same sentiment is ringing today, because I think it's the complete opposite. I think the Uber driver and the Lyft driver telling you that about Bitcoin is a very good thing, because Bitcoin is not like a stock. Bitcoin is an entire money system. It's an entire platform for removing trust from the equation of money, which is a fascinating feat that we've accomplished. And it's why your Uber driver telling you about something useful isn't a scam. The idea that we want to equate Bitcoin to stocks is complete absurdity. For one, Bitcoin is an asset completely unlike stocks, to where there are no middlemen trapping your Bitcoin and promising you, or rather needing you to meet all these requirements to buy your Bitcoin. You don't need to buy an entire Bitcoin. Just a fraction's great. You can't buy a fraction of Ford stocks. If you can, I believe I did hear about a way to buy fractions of stocks, but you have to go through all this minutia of deals and go into and maybe go through hedge funds. I don't know. It's very difficult to get into any stock, and then liquidating is also tough. You also have to go through middlemen and lose in fees. Whereas Bitcoin, you buy straight in, you buy any fraction of a Bitcoin, and now you're in. So again, this idea that because everybody's telling you about Bitcoin is a good idea to run away. No. Bitcoin is a deflationary asset. It's not an inflationary asset. People telling you about a currency that goes up in value and that actually prints less and less of it as time goes on is a good idea. Just because somebody gives you a good idea doesn't mean it's a good idea to run away. I think it's a silly fallacy, and it's a fallacy that might have rung true considering the people that were the way that stocks work. It's much different from crypto. Stocks are equity or ownership in a company, whereas Bitcoin, owning a Bitcoin is owning the right to move your value through this trustless and very robust network. So it really is apples and oranges comparing stock to Bitcoin. So the next time somebody tells you that hearing about Bitcoin from any average Joe is a bad thing, that's actually a good thing for Bitcoin. And I'm sorry to use that adage that anything bad is good for Bitcoin. It's just that the day that Bitcoin stops working, that would be the day that is bad for Bitcoin. But considering Bitcoin is still working, and Bitcoin does not exist in a vacuum, it exists in a world full of variables that affect it day and night, are actually a testament to its staying power. Every day that it's not broken and it's still working is obviously a very good thing for Bitcoin. So yeah, today's prices might be a bit low. Haven't even brought that up because I'm not really worried. In the grand scheme of things, if you had bought when Bitcoin dropped from 1,000, if you would have bought Bitcoin at 1,000 into 2013, I think you're still sitting pretty. That's 10x returns on your investment. And this is not to shill, but it's just the fact of the matter is this is an asset unlike anything we've ever seen before. And one last note regarding anybody talking about Bitcoin. Even the dumbest person in the room has a phone, and that is not a slight to the dumbest person. I think that the right phrase there was I misspoke. The right phrase is ignorant person. The most ignorant person in the room has a phone, and that phone is connected to the internet, whether we like it or not. Any ignorant person now has the ability to see what is big in the news, and the news loves to talk about gains. Therefore, it's going to talk about this asset called Bitcoin and how much it's raised in value, and inevitably they'll also talk about how much it's lost in value day to day. They're just trying to get shock value out there, guys. The news might not be the best place to get substantive information. It's really not, which is why even the most ignorant person in the room will have heard of Bitcoin by now. I'm pretty sure any mainstream news media organization most likely has already talked about cryptocurrency. So even the ignorant guy in the room knows if you buy Bitcoin, you'll make some money. And of course, that's okay. It's not a fallacy. So yeah, just some thoughts on the current sentiment of Bitcoin. HODL strong people. We're gonna get through this. I would be moving my crypto allocations from alts to Bitcoin soon, considering Bitcoin will eventually go back up again, as it tends to do. But I'll talk about that in another vlog. See you guys next time. Please leave a like, subscribe, share with your friends if you like what I'm talking about. Share my ideas. Thanks, everybody. Bye.